Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Murray, and I'm the Director of Travel here at AAA. I'm excited that we have some wonderful destinations to share with you. Today, we have Kevin Ferguson, who's the Business Development Manager with Member Choice Vacations, and I'm excited that we're going to learn about all of the national parks and traveling throughout the United States. So, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to do this wonderful webinar on the U.S. West and the national parks.
I'm really excited about everything we're going to see, and I know you have a great presentation planned. Can't wait to see some of the beautiful pictures and learn a little trivia and history about the national parks as well. So take it away, Kevin.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian. So yeah, for 7 years, I was a tour manager out west in the national parks, South Dakota, Arizona, Utah, the mountain states here. And I'll tell you that it was such a wonderful destination because it's truly the rest of the story when it comes to American history, geology, and everything that we just don't normally see back out here east in western and central New York. So we'll have a little bit of extra insider knowledge and tips and tricks to the area here. But let's get things rolling here today and give you a much more destination knowledge on the U.S. West and the national parks. Well, first of all, when you're taking a guided tour with AAA Member Choice Vacations, you have fantastic accommodations. Many of them are strategically located, whether we are in the parks or just outside of them or near a major city where the action is all at. People want to make sure that they have a centric and centralized hotel, and that's really what we have here when it comes to our journeys. We are not staying in the Ritz-Carltons. We're also not staying in the KOA campgrounds as well. So again, great value for money. You're gonna have a tour manager who's with you the entire time. There will be, depending on the region, some expert local guides within those destinations, and it is just perfectly planned right out there for you. So you don't have to rise. You don't, all you have to do is rise, but you don't need to shine. And you're not like Mr. and Mrs. Knucklehead right here trying to figure it out on their own with a map. It's all done there for you. So if you've done and experienced the national parks in the West before, you're going to do it the easy route here, and let's the pros take care of it here for you. As a AAA member, there is going to be an additional value-added member benefit here, so that there is an additional $50 of savings on each and every tour in the AAA Member Choice Vacations lineup. But let's get right into this, to the prize lands of the U.S. themselves, which are our national parks, and we're going to be focusing on the western part of the United States here. It's much more than just the Grand Canyon, and that's what most people think of when they think of the national parks. It might be Grand Canyon or Yellowstone, but there's just so much more out here than the canyon. But we'll talk about it, of course. So some expert advice. Firstly, people always ask me, when is the best time of year to go? My answer is when you can, because life is too short, and we just know, especially with just the way that the world is that people want to go and people want to travel, and make this time yours at the end of the day here. So some of the other advice I would always say is come in a day ahead of time before the tour begins. Helps you to get over jet lag and any other types of potential delays that may alter some of those different things. Other benefits of times of year to go. Well, if you choose the spring, May, early June, or September, October, these are going to be times that are a little bit off season. They're shoulder season here, and they provide the benefits of less crowds. It allows you to really fully immerse yourself in the community, connect with the locals and the surroundings that are around you. You won't have to deal with the humidity in some of these areas in the summer months. So just as a really nice time to go and to explore in the spring or the fall. Now, if summer months are the only times that allow, well, those are going to be great times too as well for you. That's why they call it high season. And don't forget some of the things that I always recommend for you to bring: sunscreen, Bring a reusable water bottle, just because you want to make sure to keep hydrated with the elevational changes. Have the layers, just because of temperatures may change 30 to 40 degrees even within a day, from sunrise to the peak of the heating day. Binoculars. Also something to bring along. You never know what you're going to see when you travel along the way. And of course, here, when it comes to domestic travel, after October of 2020, here is you are going to be required to have a real ID or an enhanced driver's license. So if it has the flag on the bottom right-hand side of your New York State driver's license, that's fine there as well. And due to COVID-19 or the coronavirus, I know that the New York State DMV has done extensions on the federal level here as well, that this has been extended out to 2021. Don't delay, get it done now. So the National Parks of America, there's a number of them, and then it's going to be very, very surprising, some of the different facts here of just what makes up the parks, what makes a park different from a national forest. First of all, there's about 85 million acres of land that has been protected by the national park system. 55 million of them are just located alone in the state of Alaska. We won't be touching upon Alaska today, but we will be touching upon basically everything on the first 1/3 left-hand side of the U.S. map. So again, the U.S. West. Of course, here as well, the parks, we do have national parks in New York. It's not showing up on this because the Adirondack Park is not a national park, it is a state park. But nevertheless, here we do have 22 national parks in New York State. 10 of them are in New York City, and parks, monuments, historic sites make up these national park denominations, such as the Women's Rights National Historic Park in Seneca Falls, the Niagara Falls Natural Heritage Area. The Statue of Liberty is a national monument. Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural site on Delaware Ave in Buffalo is also under the National Park Service umbrella here as well. Now, who got this all started? So Brian, who got this all started? Do you know who these guys are?
Well, Kevin, they look like they look pretty special people. I'd say they're all presidents.
You're right.
So
You're
far,
right.
so good.
Yes. I was glad you didn't say, oh, they're all in black and white, because I would have said that too.
Leave it to me with that. And I think maybe the guy in the upper left-hand corner there, he might be Grant, Ulysses
You got
Grant.
it. You got it.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
1 for 3. I'll let you do the rest, Kevin.
All right. So again, Ulysses S. Grant here. He created the first national park in the United States at Yellowstone in Wyoming and Montana back in 1872. Now, if you see the arrow down, it points to Teddy Roosevelt. Yes, the Rough Rider, the conservationist. He established the U.S. National Forest Service. Now, this yielded 150 national forests, 5 national parks, and then he also signed what was called the Antiquities Act in 1906. There's your daily double question right there, Brian. This resulted in 18 new U.S. national monuments, and then his administration also saw the creation of 51 different bird reserves, 4 different game reserves, and the result is actually 230 million protected acres. So again, that's on top of that 84 million acres of national parkland here as well. Now, the guy to the right is Woodrow Wilson, same guy that helped to stop World War I. But back in 1916, he signed a bill that established the U.S. National Park Service. And this was a bureau of the Department of the Interior. Now, here's your U.S. history lesson. So again, I just said he established that Department of the Interior, and the National Park Service is one of those bureaus that was created. Again, this Park Service, it was mandated to preserve the resources unimpaired. So again, intended only to solely preserve. So under this Department of Interior, you see that arrow pointing down to the National Park Service. Under this umbrella, this is where it includes those memorials, those historic parks, like the Statue of Liberty, like the Women's Rights Museum in Waterloo, so on and so forth there. Even sites and districts. So for example, Independence Hall and the surrounding neighborhood in Philly, that is actually a part of the National Park Service. Or in New Orleans, the Treme neighborhood, where jazz really began from, that is also a National Historical Park. Now, you can see the difference on these signs here. It says National Park Service, and then you can, as a part of the Department of the Interior. When it comes to a national forest, it's under a different department. It's under the Department of Agriculture. So the major differences between a national park and a national forest are that a forest can be used. A park has to be preserved. Okay, so again, lumber and some of those other different standards here make it that there is a little bit more working and wiggle room available there. Now, a lot of things on this screen here as I point here to you, but I want to show you this, is that again, a national park and a national monument, they have the same landowner, and that landowner there is the US government. Now, a national monument is going to be a lot smaller in size, and it's used to preserve the authenticity of that location. A national park is going to be a lot bigger, and it's going to be mainly used for inspirational, recreational, scenic, or educational purposes. Again, they're all under the same National Park Service. Don't mean to confuse you, just to give you a lot more information here. Now, when we are looking at the US West, there's a lot of these national parks and national monuments. So you see NP, and then you also see NM. So just above the Grand Canyon in Arizona, it says Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. That was actually one of the most recent ones that were created during the time of the Bill Clinton presidency, just a few years back here. Let's get right into the parks. Let's get right into the beauty of the national parks. And this is a shot here from Zion National Park, located in southern Utah here. On this tour that we have at Member Choice Vacations, this is a very comprehensive look, experiencing Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, and South Dakota. And when I guided this tour, I told people it just gets better and better and better. And he said, oh, you can't beat the Grand Canyon. I said, yes, you can. Just you wait. Now, here are some of those highlights. Later, up in the north, when we get into the state of Wyoming after visiting Yellowstone, we'll go to the Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Cody. We'll also go and experience Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse, as well as, of course, Yellowstone National Park, home to Old Faithful Geyser. We start in Scottsdale, over 300 days of sunshine a year, and in the foothills of the Camelback Mountains here and the saguaro cacti that you see. Fun fact, those saguaro cacti, they start to grow their arms at 75 years of age, and they hold up to 2,000 gallons of water. We then drive north and make our way into the Red Rock area of Sedona. And Sedona here is a area that is known for its hoodoos. Its vortex zones. These vortex zones are areas of energy. So again, both very popular for the nature lover, as well as those who are into the metaphysical and the psychics and some of the other otherworldly things that are out there. From here, we continue on to the north to Grand Canyon, where we're going to be overnighting at Grand Canyon North Rim. Only 10% of people who go to the Grand Canyon actually go and tour the North Rim. It's only open from May 15th until just around the time of Columbus Day in October. So again, completely different. Over 277 river miles long. It's on average 10.5 miles wide and up to a mile deep. Also, we'll go and we'll tour and overnight at Lake Powell. And we'll have a breakfast cruise right out on Lake Powell to give you an amazing experience and an awesome way to start the day. Bryce in southern Utah. This is again going to be completely different from what you see at Grand Canyon because these are those hoodoos that are pinnacles created by water erosion. It was created, it was named after Ebenezer Bryce, who was a Mormon missionary and pioneer, made his way out there and told by Brigham Young to go and farm the land. He wrote in his journal, it was a hell of a place to lose a cow. You can definitely agree here with this tough living that you see out here. Zion, as I showed you a shot here earlier, this is kind of that Maid of the Mist experience because here you're at the base of the Virgin River and the valley here as well, and you're able to see these beautiful 2,500, 3,000 foot tall spires and cliffs around you here. And of course here, we'll continue going north, making our way into Utah, into Wyoming, into South Dakota. But I'll tease you that because I want to show you some of those pictures a little later on. But that really is our all-encompassing trip. If you're never going to go back to the west, definitely the U.S. National Parks is the way to go. Now, Canyon Country, very similar. It's going to have that focus majorly on the states of Utah and Arizona, as well as finishing in Vegas here. So one night in Scottsdale, one night at Grand Canyon South Rim, which is open year round. So this trip operates in times like February, late October, even early November. And so again, if you want those early shoulder seasons, great opportunities here. One night at Grand Canyon, 2 nights at Lake Powell, right on the Utah-Arizona border, 2 nights at Zion National Park, and Springdale is just about 1.5 miles outside of the park. And here at Las Vegas is where we finish. The reason why we finish in Las Vegas is because it serves as a major gateway and airport to be able to have you fly back to Western or Central New York. And again, the spires, the hoodoos, the breakfast on the Lake Powell here, and of course, marveling at those white sandstone cliffs here at Zion National Park. Having some more time when we are in Sedona, you'll be able to see Cathedral Rock or Snoopy Rock. And the red that you see was created because, again, the iron oxide rich elements that make up this sandstone and limestone here. And of course, finishing in Las Vegas, where we're staying right on the strip, and a beautiful hotel and an amazing way to end off your journey here, and even have your luck at Lady Luck itself. Going further to the north, let's go back into scenery overload, which is America's cowboy country. This trip will begin in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and make its way out east to Rapid City in the Black Hills and the Badlands of South Dakota. 2 nights in Jackson, 1 night in Yellowstone, 1 night in Sheridan, and then 3 nights at one hotel in Rapid City, which is the fastest growing city in all of South Dakota, or the Dakotas, I should say, in general. Some of the highlights, we'll have a Wild West Chuck Wagon dinner experience. We'll be going to the Black Hills Gold and Diamond Factory here in Southwest South Dakota, as well as traversing and making our way along the Badlands, which was the bad land to travel across. And this was, believe it or not, an ancient sea 28 to 35 million years ago. And mind you this, the nearest ocean is time zones away now. Jackson Hole, a hole is a secluded mountain region. Jackson is the name of the town, and in the distance there, what you see are the amazing and imposing Teton Mountains. From here, these Tetons, they get up to about 13,000 feet in elevation, and this is what is known as the Switzerland of the United States because of these amazing peaks. These were all created by earthquakes, and 50 miles up the road was all created by volcanoes. And that, my friends, is Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone here And this is where we receive about 3 million visitors a year. 2 of the 3 million that visit are in the months of July and August. So if those times are sacred for you to enjoy our summer weather here, consider those different shoulder months here, and you'll definitely have more to experience with less crowds around you. The hot pots, the fumaroles, the geothermal activity that's happening here, 1/3 of the world's geological activity happening right here at Yellowstone National Park. Over 3,500 gallons of superheated water are shooting off every 92 to 94 minutes here at Old Faithful. As we go east, we make our way over the Bighorn Mountains. And here, this is the areas where they found paleontology and archaeology and dinosaur bones and everything else that you see at Smithsonian probably comes from the state of Wyoming or Utah or Wyoming or Montana or South Dakota, because this is where the dinosaurs roamed. Spotlight on South Dakota. Now, Brian, do you know what a spotlight tour is?
Well, I have to tell you, Kevin, I did a spotlight tour with Member Choice Vacations, and it was the spotlight on South Dakota, and I actually had a fabulous time. What was nice about that is, and I'm going to give it away, you can elaborate, but we stayed in a hotel, one hotel the whole time, so we didn't have to unpack and move along. There's advantages to both. We did day trips out from our hotel location, but many people like to maybe stay put in a hotel accommodations for a period of time rather than move in a forward progress. There's benefits to both, and people love both, but I did thoroughly enjoy the spotlight on South Dakota.
You hit the nail right on the head. Yes, exactly. This is a land cruise. It's one hotel, and you're going to be able to do day trips throughout there. You'll see that little arrow up on the top, and that is a choice on tour. So our tours at Member Choice Vacations, a lot of times we'll have a choice. So if you want to do one thing and I want to do the other, and we're both roommates, great, go back, compare notes. You're not paying an extra dime for doing so there. So again, we're flying in and out of Rapid City and doing those day trips, whether it's Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse, Black Hills, Badlands, Wall, which is the wall to the Badlands, and also home to Wall Drug Store, and Devil's Tower, which was obviously very popularized during the late 1970s movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, directed by Steven Spielberg. Again, this first national monument was right here, Devil's Tower. It was created by under Calvin Coolidge's administration here in the 1920s. But we'll also explore Deadwood, which is home to Calamity Jane and Wild Bill and Poker Alice, and the rough and tough times of the 1870s and the search for gold. And of course, the Presidential Trail and Mount Rushmore and those 4 guys on the hillside there, just a signature part of all things America and Americana. Whoa, what a wild, crazy place that we'll be driving through. And what you see with those different colorations was this is all under an ancient sea. So basically, just like the bathtub rings, what you see right here is those different rings were the different shales and deposits over millions of years of time. And we're literally just driving through and seeing this. On the tops of some of these fossilized mounds, you can actually still find shells on different other types of material there. Devil's Tower, which was created by an igneous intrusion, which is a nice fancy word meaning a lava flow that or magma flow that came out from the ground and basically created this mountain that we see right here. Now, it was believed by the ancient, early Indian dwellers of the area, or Native American dwellers, that there was 4 young children that were trying to run away from a bear, and that bear caught up to them, and the ground just lifted up, and those scratches that are on the side were from the bear. Well, I'll tell you, that's why you hear the other side of the story when you go out and travel with us, because there's always 2 sides to every story. We'll give you the scientific approach too. Nevertheless, very impressive. Deadwood, what we see here, this is again the home to the last days and final times here of Wild Bill Hickok. And up on the hillside there, that little square that's up on the hill, that was home to the Homestake Mine, which was the U.S.'s largest producing gold mine from 1876 all the way until 2001, 125 years that was in continuous operation up there up in the hill. Now here we'll also go to the Crazy Horse Memorial, which surprisingly enough is the largest sculpture currently in progress in the world. This is a private site here, and how big is this? To show you is that Crazy Horse here, all four heads of the presidents right here fit within the head of Crazy Horse. It's massive. And that little hole that is under where he's pointing out is 90 feet tall. Definitely a impressive sight to be seen here. And of course, also equally impressive, Mount Rushmore, created from 1929 to 1941, honoring four of our great leaders of America. Another tour completely different is going to be the Colorado Rockies, where again, focusing on some of these other different smaller parks and getting out to the countryside in these areas here, whether it's Colorado National Monument, crossing over the Continental Divide, getting into arches and canyonlands in eastern and southeastern areas here of Utah, as well as Durango and Mesa Verde National Park, which is home to the ancient Anasazi and Pueblo Indians here as well. Some of the things that we'll be doing along the way, going to Durango, which is a cowboy town, and reliving the Old West, as well as taking this Royal Gorge Railroad here at the, to see the stunning scenery of the Colorado Rockies. Most people have heard of the Pikes Peak and the railroad and the cog railroad that's there. That is not in operation anymore, unfortunately. So that's why we want to make sure to have this train implementation here and experience it through the Royal Gorge. And of course, arches, the largest concentration of natural sandstone arches not only in the United States, but the world. Scenery, and the scenery is scenery overload, and your pictures just won't do this place justice. Your friends that ask you about this journey, they'll ask you, how was it? And the response is simply put, you missed out. Whether it's taking again that Durango Silver to narrow gauge or the Royal Gorge, we're going to have that air available for you. Crossing the dividing line here of where water flows to either the Pacific or the Atlantic. We'll be doing this not only on this tour, but several times while we're traveling through Yellowstone National Park as well, whether we're on the National Parks trip or on America's Cowboy Country. And the Gardens of the Gods here. This is one of the places that we'll be experiencing and seeing where we'll be getting really into the scenery of these destinations in all of its beauty and grandeur and glory. The Painted Canyons, very similar, because this is going to be highlighting some of the lesser known parks in Utah as well as in Colorado. But for example, starting in Denver, going into Grand Junction, 2 nights in Moab, where we'll be doing arches and canyonlands, then Bryce and Zion, which I mentioned to you earlier, and then finishing in Vegas. Some other spots there that you may have never heard of, Capitol Reef or Dead Horse Point. Really, some really spectacular sites here. Some of those highlights, mentioning of course here Moab and canyons and canyonlands and arches, but also Zion, where we'll have our private tour, or going to Dead Horse Point State Park in Moab. And again, as the sky is a painter's canvas, as far as you can see, the beauty and grandeur and glory that's out there, absolutely impressive. Arches National Park here, where again, those concentration of sandstone, monuments are right there, really allows you to see how small you are in this big giant world out there. And again, the scenery is just awe-inspiring. So if you've been watching shows like the Travel Channel and some of these other destination shows, make this time yours. This is an amazing country, and go and explore and see and make this happen. We'll also get to Grand Staircase and Escalante National Monument. Again, one of the most recent national parks and national monuments that have been designated by the U.S. government, as well as more photographic and photo-worthy spots here along the way, like Dead Horse Point. And of course, if you've been to these areas and want to see a bit more, the Pacific Northwest, California, Seattle, all the way down to San Francisco, going into some of those natural areas, the dunes, Redwood National Forest and the parks and the sequoias, and all that beauty that's there, the Cascades, Mount St. Helens, where we'll go into visit their visitor center there, and finishing with 2 nights in San Francisco as well. Again, those Avenue of the Giants with those redwoods and sequoias, you've got it. Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, really highlighting those major popular cities out west. Getting into Pike's Place Market and seeing them throw the fish and those fishmongers there really just liven up the crowd. There's so much to see in the Pacific Northwest in California. Albuquerque, great times in early October to explore and experience the Balloon Fiesta, this airborne event where there's hundreds of balloons that are up there, and we're going to be focusing not only on Albuquerque but also on Santa Fe here as well. So a perfect time of year to experience the balloons, great weather, and some of the other things beyond the balloons, but actually going to the Santa Fe School of Cooking, going into Loretto Chapel, where you see this beautiful staircase that was only created by without one nail. Wraps right around here, as well as some of the other different smaller parks. Taos will have an opportunity of getting to there. Carlsbad, all those different spots out here that really make New Mexico special and spectacular. And lastly, San Antonio, where again, a one hotel multi-night stay trip where we're staying right on the river and the Riverwalk area. Not too short, not too long, just right. Also getting out to Texas's hill country, as well as into the German areas here as well. Lots of things here to point out here. Again, cruising around the Pasillo del Rio, going to the King William Historic District, and of course, whether it's going to be touring LBJ's Ranch or the South Texas Historical Center, but also going to the Alamo and learning about Davy Crockett and Sam Houston, all those other different people that made American history what it is. So to end up, I always say, what are you waiting for? The best time to travel is while you can, while you have this opportunity to make it yours. And for more information, just contact your nearest AAA Western and Central New York branch, right, Brian?
Absolutely, Kevin. Wow, you did a great job. And I have to tell you, we learned history, we learned some trivia, we saw beautiful pictures and photos of our gorgeous country and the national parks. I really can't thank you enough, Kevin, for sharing your knowledge, your history, not only with the U.S., but all the national parks and what Member Choice Vacations have to offer. So thank you, Kevin, for presenting this information today.
Thank you, and don't forget, get out there and travel. The time is yours.
Absolutely, and thank you all for joining us. And whenever you're ready to travel, we're here for you as well. So thanks so much, everybody.